Save the Semantics, episode 206. It is April 13th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. This is probably going to be another two-parter. I kind of liked how I sort of separated out last week. So I'm going to do the same thing, mainly because, the things that have already occurred during this past week and today, I can just kind of retain that information a little bit better and talk about it because I can remember it more than if I had recorded on Sunday, where I have to kind of go back and try to really be thinking about what I was thinking in the moment and of recent. I feel like providing a more of an initial, I guess, reaction or commentary of sorts kind of helps in regards to just sort of being a bit more clear and concise about how I'm feeling about things. So yeah, I'm gonna follow that up with kind of something similar as I did last week, because I kind of like that. So this will be sort of the first part of this episode. I'm recording this on a Thursday, so middle of the week. Deciding to record this outside just because it's nice out. It's really nice out, actually. The weather's been real nice for the last couple weeks, so want to take advantage of that when I can. It's funny. I kind of wanted to note something. So I feel like for the last couple of weeks, both Monday and Tuesdays of those 2 weeks have been some of the better days for me. It's so funny because usually the idea or the stereotype is like Mondays. You don't look forward to Mondays, and usually I do feel that way. But I've felt the best this week, Monday, Tuesday, kind of the same as I did last week, which is kind of funny. Friday I felt horrible. Friday I felt like shit. I don't know what happened. I felt burnt out for some reason, even though it wasn't necessarily even a hard work week or anything like that. But I was just tired. I don't know. I think it was just a combination of lack of sleep and maybe some fatigue caught up with me in regards to just work accumulated in total. I don't know. But last Friday I just felt horrible. So hopefully we don't repeat that this week. I think I just need to, it's really just sticking to a better sleep schedule, really. And I think I just sort of taper off toward the end of the week where I'm not as firm with myself in terms of having good sleep hygiene and whatnot. So let's try to continue that, because I think focusing on that is a good thing. But yeah, I'd say the Monday and Tuesdays of both of these respective weeks have been solid, man. I felt good about myself. But I mean, this week in general has been solid as well. I have it's been good. I've been taking care of business as usual. It's been a lot of good stuff happening, a lot of exciting things happening in the world, I guess. And so I want to kind of touch upon that a little bit. So I mean, we'll talk. What should we start with? Should we start with basketball and then kind of transition into Zelda stuff? What am I feeling? Let's talk basketball, just in chronological, order, I suppose. The play-ins have started. They started up on Tuesday with the Timberwolves and Lakers, and then the Hawks and the Heat. Both games were were just kind of average, I would say. I mean, they were exciting in some respect. I think the Hawks handled business. They didn't blow out the Heat, but they were in control for the majority of the game, and they were able to win and secure a 7th place position against the Celtics. I don't know how well that series is going to go. I'm hoping that the Hawks can kind of give them somewhat of a competitive series, just because I just, I like seeing a bit some unpredictability, you know what I mean? And I think that the obvious outcome would be the Celtics, like, either sweeping them or, winning in 5. But I'm hoping that it'd be like a 6 or 7 game series. I think that would be exciting. It could be, you don't know, man. Um I want to give Atlanta a bit of a benefit of a doubt. Like, there it is really funny the way their season went and how they ended the season. I mean, this is just kind of a whole thing across, NBA analytics and, people keep, just people, even casual fans keeping up with the NBA. They had like one of the most average seasons of all time. Like, they ended their season 500. The amount of points that they've allowed and the amount of points that they've scored against opponents were like almost even. They're just average across the board in terms of their, how many points they scored and shit like that. And just if that totaled up, it was something where they were just in the middle of the pack and everything, which is hilarious. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It's possible that they could. Anything is possible, really. It's just it's a little hard to see them pull off an upset against the Celtics team, which is very good. But I don't know. I want to give some hope there. I think that could make more of an exciting series, because right now I think the Eastern Conference is probably less competitive in terms of the seeding and brackets and higher versus lower seeds. Like, the other series is going to be the Bucks versus whoever, the Bulls or the Heat, and I don't think that's going to be very competitive at all. So I think that it's going to be. It's got to be. I'm hoping that there's going to be a bit more of a competitiveness than I'm sort of anticipating. You know what I mean? The other, I think I touched upon this last week in terms of like what other playoff matchups there are. Like, there's the Sixers and the Nets, but I don't know how. You never know. Again, the Nets could potentially give the Sixers a run of their money. But it's a little hard to see if Embiid is locked in, if Harden is able to, provide some, if he's able to kind of continue his play that he has from the regular season, then I think the Celtics are probably going to pull it off in a pretty easy fashion. The Nets just don't. I mean, they're basically a brand new team at this point, right? Their starting lineup is consisted of like 4 guys that they've acquired in trades from Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So it's like they've been playing well. Mikal Bridges has been incredible, but I just don't. It's really hard to see this team go very far, just the way they are. But you never know. Could be a series there. If the Sixers don't take advantage of their strengths. Anyways, let's talk a bit about the play-in games so far that have happened, because it's been exciting. It's been a pretty exciting group of games so far. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching them all. Even if pointing out specifically the Lakers and Minnesota game, that game was pretty terrible, I would say. I mean, it was down to the wire, but just so many mistakes and just such poor play from both teams. It was hard to watch, especially Minnesota. My God, dude. I remember watching a game with them last year where it was kind of a similar thing where they just could not for the life of them score a bucket, and I was getting mad. I was like, just get a layup or something, you know what I mean? They were playing against the Grizzlies or something, and this was in the regular season, not the playoffs. God, they're so frustrating to watch, though. It's like they have the arsenal, they have the players. Like, I know they were down Gobert and Jaden McDaniels. I understand that, but Anthony Edwards played like crap. He played terribly. I don't know if it was like an injury or something, if he was dealing with that, but it was just bad, So it was hard to watch them just like do ISOs, and there was no ball movement whatsoever. Like, they couldn't get into the paint. Like, they didn't they didn't even attempt to penetrate at all. They were just all, it was like Cat, shooting threes. Like, he played well. He had a good game, but he just did not, he did not execute at the end. So it was just frustrating to watch. And the Lakers managed to cobble a win, but it's just because Minnesota played like shit, But I mean, other than that, I've been very entertained with the other games. I already mentioned Atlanta and Miami. Yeah, Miami played pretty bad, but I want to give again. I want to give some props to the Hawks, just because how well they played. They showed like a ton of effort on like the offensive glass, especially Capella. He had like 20 rebounds, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, they were killing them on the glass. And that was kind of fun to watch. I mean, if you're on the other side, it sucks. But if as someone who had no stake in that game whatsoever, it was fun seeing a team, really put in the effort to get those second chance points. And Trae Young had some kind of nice moments there. He looked like he was showing some confidence in his play. It was good to see him kind of overcome this sort of like, the monster that was like the Heat. The Heat like really took care of them last year. So it was good to see him kind of, I guess, step up and be like, hey, listen, we're better than what we are. And it's also one game, so like anything can happen in one game. That's why it's so much at stake. It raises a lot of the tension, win or go home for a lot of these teams, especially going to yesterday's games, which I felt both were really great, because both teams, both games, the teams were matched up pretty evenly, and it was just like a really fun kind of like back and forth. I mean, of course, you can argue that Toronto just kind of completely dropped the ball in the second half, or I guess the fourth quarter of the game. But Bulls Raptors, that was still a fun watch. It was fun seeing Levine go off and shoot from you could argue, you could say like Steph Curry range, but everybody shoots from that range at this point. Just pull up in transition. That was fun to see. DeRozan got a couple of big dunks. That was cool. Turning back the clock a bit. And then seeing them come back from a near 20-point deficit. That's fun to see. I think that it's so funny that I pay attention enough to the point where I follow up on who's good and what team is good at what. It's funny that Chicago has had one of the best defenses in the game post All-Star break. I mean, you could argue that some of it has to do with Patrick Beverley coming in and providing some of that presence. But they've also had like a good defensive rating even a little before he came. So it's funny because you don't really, Levine and DeRozan and Vucevic, those aren't like, they're known for much more for their offense. Like, this is all pretty, this is known information. It's just funny how things like that work, where you're sort of expecting one thing and you're getting the opposite of that. But yeah, we saw some really good defense from Chicago in kind of the late game of them playing against Toronto, and I thought that was really exciting. And it was a fun matchup there. Although I know I'm sure Toronto fans are not pleased with that effort at the end there and blowing a pretty substantial lead, I would say. The other game that happened yesterday was the Pelicans versus the Thunder, which was a great game. I think this is probably the best play-in game so far. I felt that there was just this constant back and forth. Like no team really had a significant edge or significant lead, to where they had control over the game. Like Toronto had like a 10-point lead, but then the Pelicans kind of came back and took over for a little bit there towards the end. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, man, he's I haven't watched every game, and I've watched him over the last couple of years, and I've noted some of his highlights and whatnot, but just watching him in action is like incredible, dude. Just the way he plays, like nobody. I'm really trying to think of a player that's really plays like him, just smooth, and he's able to get to the rim like that. Like I can't think of anybody who plays like him. Especially, I mean, right now, especially, there's not really anybody that's like him. I'm trying to think back, like way back, of if there's any players that he reminds me of, and I can't really think of. I've been watching the basketball for a minute, but my general like encyclopedia, my knowledge of players, it's pretty bare bones, honestly. Like there's not. I know players. I know the significant ones and the events that have occurred and shit like that. But in terms of, oh yeah, there was this player like Ahmad Sharad or whatever the fuck, I don't know. Like I can't think of a name, but Rashard Lewis. I'm just naming names, right? I'm like, I know they played for this team back in 2009 because they were in the NBA play, like that's, or NBA finals. Like that's all I can really say. I don't know like their stats and shit like that, or specific journeymen or whatnot. So, but I it's hard for me to find a player that I can compare Shai to, because he's just so unique in the way he plays. It's just so smooth. Like it's so good. It's so fun to watch. You know what I mean? He doesn't shoot threes, right? That's like a big note. He just gets into the paint somehow. He just kind of glides. Just winds his way kind of into the paint. And it's great. It was great to watch, and he was just so under control. In the end of the game, like he hit that one big shot to get them up by one, like with like 20 seconds left or something like that. But it's good stuff, man. Brandon Ingram had a pretty good game as well. Like he was just hitting shots for like the last couple of minutes. Like he was just nailing the like crazy, midfield jumpers, and that was pretty fun to watch. But yeah, Thunder came through and they pulled it off, and that was that's exciting for them, man. They got, they're what? It's either they're the young. I keep hearing or mishearing. They're either the youngest team or they're the second youngest team behind the Rockets. I forgot which one it is, but regardless, one of the youngest teams in the league. They're performing at kind of at this level. It would be great to see them get into the playoffs, because I want to see more of Shai. Really, that's really it. They're going to be playing the Timberwolves tomorrow to secure a potential playoff spot against the Nuggets. I don't think either team is going to perform well, honestly, against the Nuggets. It's either going to be in 5 or in 6, in my opinion. I think that the Timberwolves have a better personnel to handle Jokic, but even then, it's just gonna be. I think that Jokic is just too damn good for them to contain. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to see, I guess. I'd say in regards to the Nuggets, I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit, but I think the Nuggets they have some pressure, man. They got, first time number 1 seed in their history, which is saying something, which is pretty incredible. I don't think Jokic is going to get his MVP this year. It seems like a lot of the even if he does deserve it, like his stats have shown, like his stats are probably like kind of similar to what it was last year, but I just think the narrative has very much shifted towards Embiid getting it this year, which is fine. I think he deserves it for sure. And it'll be great to see him finally get it. But in regards to the Nuggets, I think there is some pressure for them to be able to perform, to advance at least to like the Western Conference Finals, because I don't believe they've gotten past the second round. As of late, like the Warriors beat them last year in first round, but again, they were undermanned. They didn't have Michael Porter Jr. They didn't have Jamal Murray. They have a much better team now. So I think there's a lot more expectations this year for sure, especially with being a number one seed and everything like that. But regardless of that, kind of taking a step back, if they face either against the Thunder or the Wolves, I don't really see either of those teams really doing well against the Nuggets, really, unfortunately. But I think it would be a much more exciting. I think it would be more exciting to see the Thunder in the playoffs than the Wolves. The Wolves just aren't. They're just not right now. The way that they're. I like Anthony Edwards. I think he's an incredible player, but the team overall is just not very fun to watch. And I was really enjoying how the Thunder were playing. Like, they were moving the ball around. Josh Giddey had a lot. He was incredible. He played super well. Same with Lou Dort last night. Just like Shea was, they were double teaming him, and he was just like, he's getting the ball out of his hands, and we were seeing some ball movement there, and that's fun to watch. As opposed to the Timberwolves, where it's just like ISOs. I'm like, what do y'all fucking move the ball, man? Make a play. Like, what do we just do something? You know what I mean? Instead of just like cat at the top of the key, like just like waiting until the shot clock goes down to like 0. You know what I mean? Like, just like move the ball around at least. Just make it a little more exciting. I don't know. So I just think they're a younger team. I think it would just be more exciting to watch them get some playoff experience, watch Shea have at least 4 additional games of play and kind of get his foot in the door. You know what I mean? So I guess in a sense I don't really care, because it doesn't have too much of a bearing. I mean, right now at least, because I do think the Nuggets are going to win either way, but I kind of am leaning towards wanting to see the Thunder play against the Nuggets. And then the kind of the other play-in game after, or not after, I think it's before, right? Yeah, it's before, because it's Eastern Conference. The other Eastern Conference teams that are trying to get the final and 8th seed in the playoffs are the Bulls and the Heat. I touched upon this earlier, but it's hard for me to see either of those teams. It's kind of a similar situation, right? I really don't see either team doing very well against the Bucks. It's just not. I don't think that's happening. So, I mean, cool. Is it good for? I don't really. It's the Heat are. If the Heat get in, they're probably the most boring team in the entire playoffs, to be honest. Like, they're just not very exciting. I like Jimmy Butler, and sometimes he has some cool moments, but the rest of the team is just not. I think that just the way they play is just not very fun to watch, to be honest. There's not really. I'm not like, yeah, let's go Heat. I don't feel any strong. I don't dislike them that much. I don't like them, and I don't dislike them. I'm just sort of I don't feel strongly towards any of their players. So I don't know. I'd rather see the Heat. I'd rather see the Bulls get swept by the Bucks. I don't know. Maybe they can put up a fight. Maybe they can make it 6 games. They won 1 game in Milwaukee, with like DeRozan going off last year. So maybe they can do something again this year. I don't know. It could be something. Maybe Pat Bev can bring some of that energy and make it a series. I'm not entirely sure, but I do like some of the personnel in Chicago a little bit more than in Miami. So that's kind of why I would prefer seeing. In this case, I would prefer seeing the Bulls win the final play-in or the final playoffs position for the Eastern Conference. So yeah, that's that. Some good stuff. Those games are going to be happening tomorrow. And then after that, on Saturday, we got a whole slew of playoff games, and I am so excited. Probably, maybe Sunday, I'll record something again. I've got a pretty substantial amount of stuff that I've talked about already today, so we'll see. But I kind of want to just do a combined episode, I guess, similar to last time. But yeah, Saturday playoffs officially begin. Of course, the one I'm most excited for are the Warriors and the Kings. Excited to see how the Kings perform in their very first playoff game in a very long time. And see how the Warriors kind of handle that. I think the crowd's going to be pretty crazy. The crowd's going to be fucking nuts. So I think they can handle the pressure. I think they'll be all right. But I don't want to count, again, I'm not going to count those guys out because I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think there's a lot of factors kind of going into it. Like, there's no like bad blood or anything like that, but I think they have a lot. They both have like nothing to prove and something to prove. You know what I mean? There's like no pressure for those guys to really. I'm talking about the Kings. They don't really have the same pressure as we do in terms of performing in the playoffs, right? Like, nobody expected them to get to this level, especially not a third seed, right? So it's just kind of I think they're just enjoying the ride, honestly, which is good for them. I think we have a lot more pressure in terms of proving ourselves. Again, kind of stepping back a little bit, going back to, I think it was last week where I was talking a little bit about previewing the playoffs. I'm sort of not anticipating the Warriors to get. Of course, I would love them to, but it's the way that they've played over the course of the year, over the course of the season. It just has not given me a lot of confidence in terms of how well that's going to translate. And I know people are going to argue, okay, but over the last 10 games or something, they've played very well, and playoff basketball is different. It's true. I totally get that. I understand that argument. But still, like, it's still kind of, there still hasn't been enough to really give me a lot of, I guess, I don't know, just hope or confidence that they can get very far in the playoffs. But again, it's the Warriors are, you got Steph Curry, you got Draymond, you got Clay, we got him. We got the boys. So they can kind of prove, they can disprove whatever the fuck I'm saying right now. I'm just gonna keep while everybody else, or not everybody else, while other people, I don't want to generalize, but while other people may have kind of these higher expectations for the Warriors, I'm keeping mine relatively just kind of low. I'm not expecting a whole lot from the rest of these playoffs. I do expect them. I do kind of expect them to win against the Kings. But beyond that, I'm sort of just kind of keeping. I'm not putting any money down on it. On their success, basically. But yeah, that's coming up on Saturday. I think there's a couple other games, right, that are happening. So I need to pay attention to. I need to look up what those games were. That's because I'm gonna tune in. I will be watching. I'll be trying to watch most of them. Let's get into some Zelda news, man. before I was that's a big reason why I decided to record today instead of this weekend, just because a lot of that is just fresh in my mind, and I really can just kind of talk about it, provide an almost initial opinion reaction to the kind of the final trailer that came out this morning. It's so funny. I don't need to do this, and I haven't had to do this, but I have gotten up early to watch kind of the debut of these trailers. It's so funny. I really don't need to do that. I can just like wake up normally and then just watch it. But no, I kind of like the idea of getting up and, you know, being there when the thing drops. I don't know. It's exciting in a way. So that's exactly what I did today. I got up a little earlier to watch the trailer, and it was at this point I've seen it like 10 times probably. I've just watched it over and over and just kind of, you know, slow down some points. It's an incredible trailer, man. It's very well crafted. I know people, just kind of seeing some of the discussions online on like Reddit and YouTube and shit like that. The what is it? People kind of making sort of the comparison to the 2017 Breath of the Wild trailer, which is funny. I hadn't seen that trailer until pretty recently, maybe a few months ago, for the first time. I was blown away by that one. That was incredible. I think it wasn't. I would say it wasn't. You know, it's a trailer for a reason. You know, you got a lot of very hyped up moments, kind of cut up in a very well organized way. I think one sort of the trailer for that was incredible. It is also, I guess, somewhat, I don't want to say misleading, because the things that happen in the trailer do happen in the game. I think it's just sort of the way in which it coincided with the music and everything. It's like, oh, these moments are going to feel epic and stuff like that. And in game, it's more like, you know, a lot of the cutscenes that were shown in the trailer were, you know, the memories from that you had. And I think the memories are really like what is it? Like, they were kind of the main story element of Breath of the Wild, which conceptually it's cool. I feel like it could have been executed a little better. I recently replayed it, like I mentioned before. And the story is probably the weakest point in Breath of the Wild. The story and the characters, like I didn't really care for it. Like, you know, I wasn't super invested in that sort of the Zelda story all that much, and just kind of like, because one, she's not really present in the sense that, you know, because her memories, you're re-experiencing these things that have already happened, but it's not within the present. You know what I mean? I feel like you don't really necessarily connect with them, because you don't necessarily connect with the characters that are shown, because one, you personally don't spend time with them. Like, you're sort of reliving these memories, because these are things that have already happened. So it's a bit different. And it's nice. Like, I'm not saying it's totally bad or anything like that, but it is kind of lacking, I feel. So, and then based on kind of the glimpses that we've seen so far, I feel that there's a lot of improvement just already. One, we have they've shown off Ganondorf. He's kind of back in his human form. I like having more of a tangible villain who has, you know, his motivations might be kind of bare bones or whatever, pretty simple. I mean, it's just, you know, it's a Zelda game. There's not, you know, the villains don't have to be complex or anything like that. But I like having someone with sort of a persona be actually kind of present and say some shit. You know what I mean? Talk his shit. I like that. So that's cool to see. It gives the player a bit more motivation. It gets you a bit more invested in the story and the characters and kind of wanting to take out the big bad. I like the interactivity that I saw where you're fighting alongside Sidon. That was probably one of my favorite parts, was seeing that. I don't really, who knows if that's something that's going to be you're going to be able to do or apply throughout the game. It could just be certain story centered sections of the game, but I'm fine with that. I think that's really cool that you're able to fight alongside these characters. I think that's some good shit right there. I was a big fan of the music, of course. I think, and maybe I forgot if I talked about it last time, but I think one concern that is not really alleviated, I would say, and this is like my one minor kind of complaint, or I guess concern that I have before getting into this game, is probably the music. I feel that a lot of the ambiance and a lot of the atmospheric music is probably going to carry over into this one, but it looks like there's also a lot of different action set pieces, and I think that could provide for some more dynamic music, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm hoping to hear a bit more music that's similar to what we've heard so far in like the trailers, because in Breath of the Wild, the piano is like the most is the most kind of recognizable sound instrument throughout the game, and I'm hoping there's a bit more there's just a bit more variety in terms of the sounds. And I've really liked the use of like the saxophone and shit, like the jazzy kind of feel, sort of like it's kind of like that jazz kind of fusion, that music that they used in the trailer. I really like that. I think that was really cool. I think this music was specifically made for this trailer, kind of similar to the Breath of the Wild trailer, but it could, just based on the main sort of theme of the game, the main musical theme of the game, I think it's possible that it could be implemented in other parts of the game as well. But I don't want to I don't want to put too much stock into that. And again, this is I consider it to be somewhat of a minor criticism, or a minor concern going into the game. But everything else that they've sold me on, I think there seems to be a much more engaging story, much more interactivity with the characters. I think just even spending time like hanging out with the characters, doing these missions or story missions or whatever you want to call them, I think that's going to add a bit more, there's a bit more complexity and a bit more layers to the characters than what we got with Breath of the Wild. I think that should add more of an element there, and I'm looking forward to that. I was just a big fan of the trailer. I thought it was incredibly well done, and after this I'm probably just gonna watch it again just because of how much I really enjoyed it. It's gotten me really excited, that's for sure. I think there's a lot to look forward to, and we only got a month left, even though I think this is probably gonna feel like the longest month ever. But I'm willing to sit through it because this game looks incredible, man. It looks super good. Anyways, I'm gonna hold off on any more discussion at this point. I think I'm gonna have some more things to talk about. This is already pretty lengthy, so I'm gonna hold off until this weekend when the playoffs begin, because I'm sure that I'll have plenty more to talk about then. This is the second part of this week's episode. Recording this on April 16th now, so it is Sunday, the weekend. NBA playoffs started yesterday. So I'll provide some updates on that. But I'm just happy. I'm in a good place. I'm happy that basketball is really in full swing. I mean, this is the time of the year season where the games really matter. And so far we've had a couple of good games so far. Lakers and Grizzlies actually just finished right now. I didn't really watch most of it. It looks like the Lakers pulled away. Um, but let's talk a bit. I want to talk a bit about yesterday's games because Um, I watched most of them. I did not watch the Hawks and Celtics game because that was pretty much a blowout from the get go, and I watched part of the. I only watched part of the Sixers and Nets games because that game was also a blowout. So a couple of, I guess, underwhelming games earlier on in the day, but Knicks Cavs, that was a really good game. That came down to the wire. Knicks were able to kind of pull it off. Jalen Brunson was exceptional. He was really good towards the last stretch there, where he was just pulling off these really clutch shots. And it was a fun game. I think that like Donovan Mitchell in like the second or third quarter, I think it was the second quarter, was like going off. Like it looks like he wasn't like missing a shot, but I think that it just wasn't like sustainable for a whole game, especially in that like environment. So both teams are really evenly matched, so I think that's going to be a really fun series going forward. I feel like in terms of size, they're pretty similar. Personnel, I feel like they just start really on even ground. So I think it's going to be a really fun matchup going forward. And seeing like who else is going to kind of like step up in each of the games. Last game it was Brunson, and we'll see who does that next game. You know what I mean? So that was an exciting one. I am in a good mood actually, despite the Warriors losing to the Kings yesterday. That was I mean, it was a great game. It was a phenomenal game. It was incredible, like watching it. I was just like sweating the whole time. Um, but I mean, we lost. I really can't. I don't know. People are always trying to find some player or aspect to blame. I just think that we lost that game. Like it was just it was so close. I don't really think there was like a single aspect that was, you know, egregious or whatever. Like I know people are always going to be about the refs or whatever, and sure there were some questionable calls down the stretch, but I just think that I just think we just lost. That's just what happened. I don't know. There's not really like a clear cut answer like, oh, the defense, or some things weren't really going our way. No, we were hitting shots, man. Curry and Clay were going the fuck off. Like they were making these crazy shots. I was losing my mind. But then the Kings were like countering back with their own. It was a really it was a really entertaining game for sure. But it just sucks that we're on the losing end of the stick. But that's okay. It's only game one. This is gonna be an exciting series. It's gonna be tough, man. I think again, I want to kind of reiterate, like it's sort of like me kind of massaging or sort of preparing myself for like the series or even the rest of the playoffs to not go up to like to par with what we're kind of expecting from this team. I just don't. I'm just not expecting a ton this playoffs. I'm just kind of enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying this incredible play from our players. And I'm just gonna ride it out. Of course I'm gonna be upset if they lose. And I'm gonna be, disappointed in a sense, but I feel that people
people are placing these sort of expectations on the Warriors because they're the defending champions, but we're just not the same team as we were last year. We're really not. We lost a lot of good rotational pieces. I know we got Gary Payton back, but I feel that we sort of we still are, we haven't performed to the standard that we were as we were last year. You know what I mean? People say that the playoffs are, or the regular season doesn't necessarily matter. It kind of does matter. It really does matter. It matters for seeding purposes. It matters for cohesion and team building and all that shit. And I just don't feel like, I don't want to be too negative, but I'll just say one more thing. Like, I just don't think, like, a lot of the things that have happened. Hold on, give me a second. I do think that I do think that the regular season is a reflection of what you can kind of expect, in a sense. Like, I don't think we just struggled this season. So I again, I just don't want to place too much expectations for this playoff series, but I do want them to perform better moving forward. You know what I mean? So next game 2 is going to be critical, of course. You don't want to be down 2-0, and even if they are down 2-0, I could see them, potentially making a comeback, but it's going to be much, much harder. So let's not do that if that's possible. It was a great game though. I do want to give some credit to the Kings. I think they played very well. But I don't know how like sustainable that like type of play is moving forward. You know what I mean? I think that the novelty of like the Sacramento crowd, I think, will probably wear off into the next game. That's kind of my theory. I think the initial experience of seeing all these people in one space, like, I don't know if we'll see if it carries over. I don't want to I don't want to assume or anything like that, but yeah, they brought it game 1. They had to. There's some pressure there for sure. So now the Warriors need to just find a way to counter that and to tie the series. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be a fun series, man. It's gonna be tough. But I'm looking forward to it. They're gonna be playing tomorrow, I believe. So I'll be watching that, of course. For the rest of today, there are, how many more games do we got? I think we have 3 more games, right? It's a lot. Got a lot more playoffs coming. We got the Heat and the Bucks, which I do not care about. I just do not care about the series. Clippers Suns might be kind of interesting, and I want to watch the Timberwolves and Nuggets. That one seems kind of intriguing, just because I feel like the Wolves have a decent chance of matching up with them, but I just feel like Jokic might just cook them, like, on the offensive, offensively, I guess. So I'm probably going to wait until later tonight to watch, because maybe I'll check into Clippers Suns, but I do not care about Heat Bucks, to be completely honest. I don't really have a whole lot of interest. Like I said, I just don't think the Heat are a very interesting team, and I also don't really. I like the Bucks. I think I like Giannis, but just in terms of play, it's just not super interesting unless it gets close at toward the end of the game. So we'll see. We will see. Other things. Any other things that I wanna talk about? I mostly just wanted to kind of catch up on some basketball and talk about that, talk about some Warriors. I'm happy to see Wiggins is back. He played really well, despite not playing for over a month. So I'm really glad to see that it looks like he hadn't lost a step. He looked really good. So I think that's a really encouraging sign to see him perform, despite how long of a absence he had. among other things, I started playing. It was like yesterday, right? Yeah, yesterday I started back up on Persona 5. It's good. It was good. It felt really fun. It felt good to kind of dive back into the world since it's been a minute since I played that game. And it's really entertaining, man. It's a really fun game. I think that it's gonna take me a minute to beat for sure, just in terms of what I'm expecting from the content and everything like that. I think I'm gonna be in it for a long haul. I don't know how long. It's probably gonna take me a long time to beat it. And also considering like Tears of the Kingdom and stuff like that is going to come out soon. So we'll see. But I'll probably continue playing it for the time being. But it's cool, man. It's fun to kind of dive back into it, and get sort of into the routine of things, and just vibe out to the great soundtrack and everything like that, and the really quick and snappy combat and everything like that. It's good. It's a lot of fun. So I'll probably be playing Persona over the next few weeks or something like that whenever I have time. Other than that, I don't really have that much more to touch on. Like, of course, there's gonna be basketball going on for the next week. So, I mean, next couple months, really. So, stay tuned for that. We're back, baby. We're back to being the premier NBA podcast. So stay tuned for more playoff coverage. And thanks for listening. Anyways, this is gonna be this week's episode. Save the Semantics. Signing off.